50 million people in China, equivalent to the population of France, are ethnically not Chinese at all. Why are there so many non-Chinese in China? Most of these peoples were incorporated into China more than 2,000. An immensely advanced civilization flourished in China. It was during this period, during the Han Dynasty, that China expanded her borders north, south, and west. By doing so, she overran most of the agrarian peoples living in these areas. There are, in fact, 54 different minority peoples in China. The ethnic Chinese, or Hans as they call themselves, traditionally looked down on these minority peoples as being totally inferior. But from the very first, the communist government insisted that the minority people be treated as full and equal members of the Chinese nation. But age-old attitudes can't be abolished overnight, and the Chinese admit that among some members of the older generation, this sense of racial superiority still exists. So that these racial prejudices are not carried over to the next generation, Chinese children at a very early age, by dances and stories, are taught to respect the minority peoples as equal members of the great Chinese family. These children, for example, are dressed in Mongolian costume and are pretending to be riding horses as the Mongolians do. In this program, we will visit 3 areas where minority peoples make up the majority of the local population. Yunnan province is the home of many nationalities. The Mongolians live mostly in northern China. But let's first look at the far western province of Xinjiang, the home of the Uyghurs and the Kazakhs. Xinjiang is the largest of China's provinces, larger in area than Spain, France, Italy, and Germany together. New cities and new industries are springing up rapidly in Xinjiang, but in relation to its vast size, it is still very sparsely populated. Among the minorities, many are farmers and herders living in the open grasslands. In Xinjiang, they breed horses that are sent to all parts of China. Wild horses still roam the plains and are captured and tamed. Inner Mongolia, another world. I've traveled many miles in this sturdy Chinese car. Occasionally, I went by camel. These Mongolians, who had never seen a Westerner before, treated me with almost overwhelming kindness. Private ownership of property has never existed in Mongol societies. Land, camels, sheep and cattle were tribally owned. This made the transition to collective ownership under the communist government relatively easy. Veterinary teams now travel from herd to herd to inoculate the sheep. Winters in Mongolia are cold and long. Bitterly cold on the outside, these tents, or yurts as they are called, are astonishingly warm and comfortable. This yurt was one of many here, a kind of permanent settlement near the capital of Hoyat. When we think of China, it is difficult to visualize the sheer scale and breadth of that enormous land and the rich variety of peoples and climates that are embraced within her borders. Now, 1,500 miles to the southwest in Yunnan province, we are in the tropics. In the area where we stayed, close to the borders of Burma and Laos, only 3% of the population are Hans, whom we call Chinese. 97% are Thais, Hanis, Pulong and Lahu peoples. We spent most of our time in one of the Thai villages called Mengtsai. About 150 people live in this village. The pace of life in these villages is slow. The people go about their work with unhurried grace. Their manner is gentle, shy almost. The basic work, of course, is the raising of food. The country here south of the Ailau Mountains is beautiful. Green and misty and rich with tropical growth. Before the revolution, the minority peoples in this area were appallingly poor, superstitious and oppressed. Most of them were serfs. 70% of a family's annual produce was taken by the landlord for taxes and rent. The only land they could buy for themselves was the plot in which they were finally buried. Fish is an important item of diet in China and no longer a luxury.